Hello, and welcome to the Empowerography Podcast. This is a platform created for women's voices to be heard and a place to share their stories, journeys, and successes with the world for the purpose of helping other women who might be on similar journeys. We are empowering women one episode at a time. I'm your host, Brad Walsh, so kick back, grab one of your favorite beverages, and enjoy the stories. The world needs to hear your message and your story, so don't deny the world of that gift within you that the universe has given you. Someone out there needs to hear your story because it will support them in feeling hope, inspired, and even transformed. Do you want to discover how I help get my clients out of their own way, show up, and confidently share their message? I would love to extend an invitation to you to join me in my free masterclass, Start Your Own Podcast from Idea to Implementation, on Wednesday, April 5th at 1 p.m. Eastern. You can find the registry link in the show notes. Hope to see you there. Hello there, Brad Walsh here, your host of the Empowerography Podcast. Today, my guest is Ashley Burney. She is a community relations professional, a public speaker, a host, and nonprofit executive, the founder and president of To Heart LLC and Ashley Burney Consulting, and the visionary behind Your Bold is Beautiful. And last but certainly not least, a mother. Welcome, Ashley. I'm exhausted after reading through your resume. How are you today? I'm so honored and excited to have you here. We've been trying to get this done, so it is an absolute pleasure. How are you today?
Thank you so much for having me, Brad. I'm really excited. And like you said, we were determined to make this happen. There is no excuse. We are here today. I am fired up, ready to go. But again, thank you for the opportunity.
My pleasure and my honor. So with that being said, let's jump right in. As I said, that is one hell of a lot of hats you wear, an extensive resume. I have to ask, how do you prioritize, and how important is prioritization in organization for you?
I have to have it. I know that there's hurdles. I know that there's things that come up. But one of the things that I have truly absorbed and learned the importance of is the balance in the organization. Asking for help when I need it, taking it, loving on that person and saying thank you. But it has really been so key in my day-to-day, especially as my platform grows on the event side and the day-to-day things I do. And those many hats that you mentioned, it is very important for me to have the organizational piece to things. And then what I have also learned is that when I have it, I actually teach others how important it is too. So the boundaries, the being readily available to saying, hey, we'll touch base tomorrow, or we'll touch base next week, or whatever that is. So definitely the organizational and the prioritization piece is truly key to my everyday.
Well, as we talked about off air before we jumped on about taking help and receiving the help, when people offer, you have to take it.
Absolutely. And I think it's in knowing that it's safe, because sometimes you get into unfamiliar territories in asking for the help because you don't know if they're going to deliver. So what I actually do is I actually have I call it a cushion, where I don't meet it right up to the deadline that I need something done or that I'm receiving the help, right? I actually give me a cushion time frame where I'm like, okay, actually, if it is not to my liking, or it actually needs a little bit more enriching, then it actually gives me the time to actually do that rather than putting me right up against, say, a deadline. But definitely accepting help and embracing help when it's needed. It's crucial.
Being a serial entrepreneur or multi-passionate, I would love to know, what does your morning routine look like?
My morning routine. So I'm going to be very transparent. That routine changes, which I had to say is okay, because what happens is we get in this A to Z, we see this tunnel and we're like, we have to do X, Y, Z today. But what happens is when things arise, especially if you are the organizer and you like to have everything cut and dry, right? And things happen, is it going to throw you off, or are you just going to take a moment, you're going to breathe, you're going to accept it, and then you're going to do what you can, right? So I always like to say, I like to stay where my feet are. That's going to allow me to say, hey, Ashley, these are the things that you want to do or that you have planned to get done, but just add in a little bit of wiggle room there, that if something comes up, you're not completely thrown off to where it knocks you off. And so when I think of routine, I like to consider it in terms of the day. I like to break it up. So my mornings really aren't my mornings, and I'm going to be very honest. My mornings are, I have a 10-year-old, okay? And I love her. She is a mini me. She likes to have things a certain way. and all the things. But my day actually does not start until I have done the drop off at school. So I come home. That's when I make my coffee. That's when I have my quiet time. I look at my schedule. I actually kind of deviated away from looking at it like the night before or whatever. Of course, I know kind of in tune what's going on, but I like to look at my schedule for the day and then just say, okay, this is what we're going to do. These are the tasks ahead. And so one of the things I like to incorporate into my routine is prayer, because in those many hats, I am many things to a lot of people. And I have to remind myself that it is my duty to make sure that Ashley's taken care of. So if that is adding in the wins for the day, like my water intake, I've doubled my water intake because I realized that I would go off of the caffeine, say coffee. I have totally eliminated soda from my diet. So it truly is the water and making sure that I drink what I need to drink so that when I want to enjoy a glass of wine, I can, because I can say, I've had my water for the day and I'm good. But incorporating, making sure my water intake is good, prayer, putting on do not disturb. I put on my phone do not disturb mode several times a day. And those times are when I know that I actually am, say, up against deadlines, or I really need to focus and be where my feet are. Because if not, then I am tapping into those several hats all at once. And I'm going to say, hey guys, and I actually let my family know, let my husband know, my kids know, as long as you guys are good, mama's good. But we're going to go ahead and utilize that feature right now. So, and it's uninterrupted Ashley time where I can focus, because I tell you, social media can get you right in the side. If you are, and especially having several platforms and making sure that you are providing the content and keeping everyone fresh and new to what you're doing and what's going on, you can get on social media and start scrolling. The next thing you're like, I was supposed to, be getting the content, right? So knowing when to have those safe and healthy boundaries throughout your daily routine, which allows you to actually stay where your feet are. So.
I love it. Stay where your feet are. I love that. That's a brilliant line. And it's important. We have to pour into ourselves. And with the social media thing, that's a suck hole. You can get sucked right in, and next thing 4 hours have passed by. And it's like, oh shit, I didn't get anything done I was supposed to get done today.
I know. And I tell you, and I know with having multiple platforms and utilizing the different social media outlets, those folks want to check in too. Hey, how are you? And you're pinging right on, say, one platform, and then you're getting content on the other and the next. So I love when Facebook and Instagram, given that it's the same company, you can transfer my content. Thank you. You know what I mean? Make it easier for us. It really is. It's a daily work. But like I said, I've thought to start incorporating more of the gym in my routine, and then also knowing when to go in my day. Is it morning? Is it evening? Is it midday? But definitely prayer, water intake, and just really trying to be present in the moment so that I can be my best self.
What were you doing before you made the jump into entrepreneurship? And what was the catalyst for the shift for you into the entrepreneurial world?
Yeah, so my career actually started working in the Clark County School District here in Las Vegas. And we are one of the nation's, in thinking of the largest school districts, we're in that top 5 of how large it is. And so when I started, I actually had joined the district, and I realized that through the different positions I had, I loved working directly with students. I did everything from hiring school police to doing the background checks to the more of the personnel side. And then next thing you know, I was like, okay, we're actually going to just jump back in the schools. So Heart to Heart actually originated and started. I was a dean secretary. So I would see who they call frequent flyers and those students who just needed a little bit more direction. And they know that Miss Burney, I would shoot it to them straight. It's okay. We see this routine of this behavioral pattern. But I knew that as I started to see the consistencies, I knew that what they needed was not in place. And so what I did is I actually started an after-school program called Heart to Heart. And next thing, developed the curriculum and the charter and made sure everything was good. And it was after school where they stayed on their time and they had to find their own transportation and so forth. But next thing you know, we would have guest speakers and we would talk about those things that were not encouraged during the school day. okay, so I'm going to keep it real. We talked about the drugs, the sex, the alcohol, self-esteem, confidence, choices, career paths. We talked about it all. And it wasn't enough time, of course, in a teacher's school day to even tap into those conversations. They may, but I noticed that they needed a solid foundation and they hadn't had it. And so it grew after school upwards of 120 kids. And so next thing you know, I was being asked like, hey, Ashley, do we need campus security? What do you need? Because I said, no. I said, and that is the issue, I said, these kids, 120 of these kids who would be considered most at risk, they could be in the streets. They could be doing things that they have no business, but they're here with me. They're safe. They know they're safe. And so the program was extremely successful to the point where other schools wanted to pilot the program. And God said, hey, Ashley, you're going to have a career change. And I'm like, okay, I'm along for the ride, right? That's what we have to be in this lifetime, just along for the ride. And so I actually left the school district because that's when I actually truly branched into the nonprofit world. Our school district is considered nonprofit, but the nonprofit organizations that were working in the schools and so forth. So I was able to kind of see what it was like on both ends of the spectrum. And so given that it was my program and I was no longer in the school district, who was going to run it? So I took the chance and I said, hey, we're going to see how it goes at this school. And it went well. So it was going at 2 schools, but then I realized I wasn't there. So for it to actually be of much fruit, that I knew the potential, I'm just going to have to kind of put a pause on it. So went into nonprofit and never let it go, didn't let it go too far. But then that's where my love for nonprofit and my love for grassroots work. I love to be at tables where it doesn't look possible. And then you're like, oh, no, it is possible. And this is what we need to do to implement and sustain these programs that are actually changing lives. So presented with opportunities within the nonprofit sector, and it was history from there. So that's actually how it started, only for it to be picked up full time 8 or 9 years later. So I was actually wearing all of the hats. So at the time, being able to grow through leadership positions and things like that, work for nonprofit organizations that I have to believe in what you do, right, to be attached to actually further the mission. I had the opportunity to do that, but then it wasn't until later down the line where I said, oh, because we go through this thing called a pandemic and we go through this thing called change, this is when it's going to be picked up again. But yeah, that's kind of how it started before getting into the full-time entrepreneurial side. But I know that you have some other questions down the line.
I know through previous conversations with you and now being able to call you a friend, Ashley, you have quite the story and journey that led to the creation of and the work you do with Heart to Heart, as you said, but also Your Bold is Beautiful. Would you mind sharing a little bit about your personal story and journey?
Yeah, so I would actually say that I've had the life that I've created for myself has really been, and of course, not on my own doing. My faith in God has really carried me. And when I say carried, to note my next point is how I know I've been carried since the very beginning. I had the opportunity to work in the nonprofit scene for, like I said, many years. And then I hit a health kind of just mountain. I'm just going to call it a mountain. In 2017, after having experienced migraines for about 1.5 years, 2 years, to the point where it was very debilitating, it took over my day. I had to work in the dark. And again, working full time at a nonprofit, you got to do what you got to do. You just show up. Teams are small but mighty. And so I went to the doctor and I told the doctor my symptoms. And I said, as scary as it is, I said, if you scan my head, I believe you're going to find something. And he looks at me and he sees this young, vibrant 32-year-old who has everything going for her. I have an amazing job. I love my family. I'm well supported. And he says, well, what do you mean, Ashley? And I said, I know something is wrong. And he said, okay. He said, well, tell me more of your symptoms and so forth. So I think he was so in denial that he was looking at me and I was telling him these symptoms that I had to urge getting a CAT scan. And he says, well, do the CAT scan, but I really don't think anything's going to come back. But in the meantime, I'll put you on a sleeping aid. I'm like, I don't think you know who you're talking to. Ashley is in bed faithfully by 8:30, 9 o'clock, every night. give or take. And I don't need to be walking around feeling like a zombie. I need you to scan my head because I believe it's more than that. It wasn't my sleep. I was not sleep deprived. So long story short, he schedules the CAT scan. I have the CAT scan done. Well, it comes back that I was born with a neurological condition called Chiari malformation. And what Chiari malformation is pretty much you're born. I have to turn it into a joke because if not, it can be very traumatizing. But you're born with too much brain and not enough space. I'm like, okay, God, that had to have been the joke at 32, right? Born with too much brain, not enough space. So your brain starts to protrude down into your cerebral area. And for what aligning should be, which is very thin, mine was open and it was wide. And so what my brain was doing, it was kind of like teeter-tottering down into my neck. So I was a walking herniation for 32 years. It was the migraines that were very troubling, where I knew my favorite over-the-counter medicine, et cetera. And I swear I could do a commercial for them, that it stopped working. And so I'm like, okay, this is not normal. So I said, okay, Ashley, that's when you need help. So it came back that I had the condition, and he was speechless. He says, I've never seen anyone your age with this condition. I said, okay. I said, well, what I do know is that providers have areas of specialty, and this is not yours. So I need to be referred to a neurologist. Got the referral to the neurologist, saw the neurologist, he sends me for an MRI. And I thought, sometimes you hope for the best. Yeah. And I just thought never would I have gotten results that said anything over 5 millimeters, it was considered significant or is significant. And I measured 12.
Holy shit.
So it's Ashley, you have no choice but to press, and to press with all you have and know that you're not alone. But God has a way sometimes of using certain people to go through something, to then spread the joy and the strength and the wisdom and the knowledge around something that could get someone else through. So I had to kind of look at it like that. Like it went from why me, God, to you can get through this, baby girl. You can get through this. So once I had the MRI, I knew that things were pretty serious. They were even more serious than what I initially thought. And my neurologist then referred me to a neurosurgeon, and they're friends in the same parking lot. I'm like, okay, so I go on, here we go, on this journey, right? So I go see the neurosurgeon, and it's very common, and it's often misdiagnosed, and you're born with it. So if the symptoms are not caught when you're born, then they'll just attempt to get more severe over time. And that's exactly what it did for me. And so once he started saying what my options were to fix the issue, I have to tell you, I was scared beyond belief. Brain surgery at 32, I mean, what the heck? And then I just so happened to be in that small percentage where I had complications, and you have to literally go back in all within a week and a half. I pretty much consider it the unzipping and zipping process. My incision is 9.5 inches, and I'm like, I have to go through this twice. I had no idea. So that is when I knew that something was being birthed out of me that I had never seen. And laying in the hospital, and I have to mention that my surgery was actually during the 1 October mass shooting here in Las Vegas. And I didn't know because I was heavily sedated. I was kept at a 32-degree angle on my side. Everything was upside down. And once I knew that the sirens in the hospital were going off, and I saw gurneys, and I saw nurses running and families screaming and just devastation, I knew something was going on around me, and I just didn't know what it was. And so come to find out, I was actually hospitalized during a time where I did not even know, and this will probably have to be a part 2, I'm telling you, like my suite mates next to me needed me. I actually came in the dreams of one of my suite mates by my name, and he had been shot several times, and it did not look hopeful for him. And even him having gone through so much, I think a 12 to 15 hour surgery, and he called me his angel. But I'm like, I had to look at things different on my end to say, I could actually be here for someone else. Little did I know that I would have to learn how to walk again, learn how to talk again. And when you know how to do something and then it seems like it's snatched from you, it is life-changing. And so going through that process, that is actually where the things and the affirmations that I would say to myself, baby girl, you're bold, my bold, you're bold, beautiful. I see scars. I see 80 something IVs. I see that I've lost weight. I see all these things that many would not consider beautiful. But to have to remind yourself of the unseen during a time where you need it the most, that's where it was birthed. So your bold is beautiful. I said, my bold is beautiful. Your bold is beautiful. So I was saying these things to myself and I said, oh, shoot, I got to do something with that. And next thing, I turned it into a lifestyle brand. So lifestyle brand out of 2 brain surgeries. Who would have thought?
Unbelievable. Just the courage and the strength. And I know there's a lot more to the story and we don't have time to get into all of it, but it is truly inspiring and incredible what you have managed to create out of that experience you went through. It's so inspiring.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. As crazy as it sounds, I don't think I would have done anything different. I discovered a strength that I didn't know I had. Fear of needles, throw that out the window. I had 80 something IVs in all places that you would never imagine. My neck, my hands, my arms, everywhere. And so that went out the window because I said, oh, well, draw blood. Oh, routine blood work. Oh, handled.
I got this.
Got this. Thank you, though. But thank you. I appreciate it.
How long were you in the hospital in total for that when you went back in? Because you went back in for the second time. So how long were you in the hospital for?
Yeah, so I was actually in the hospital for about 3 weeks. And the kicker to all of this was for my first surgery, I was in a week and then I went home a day. And then in the middle of the night, I actually started leaking brain fluid out of my incision. That's actually how I knew it's okay for you to have red because that's a collection of blood cells. But if you're leaking clear, that's brain fluid. And so my pillow, Sean rolled over and my pillow was, you could ring it. And so calling my doctor saying, he says, oh no, you need to get back in, only for me to go in and then telling me like, we're going to have to take you back. And this is at a time where my kids are at school. They've seen me. I'm home. They went through so much to only be picked up from school that day to say, mommy is actually recovering from another surgery. It really took a toll on my kids, my family, my oldest at the time, Elijah. I just saw him have to push through so much. And he was in middle school, is already a funky age. So just having to push through so much. But once I had the second surgery, you wouldn't believe it. I actually was in there a week, went home a day. This is a pattern. And I started leaking now red, which I knew it was normal, but it was nonstop. So this is now my 3rd time back in the hospital. And I know everyone now by first name. Oh, hey, I'm back. I'm tired. God, I'm tired. You're showing me, just please let me feel it, hear it, because I need you more than ever. I literally felt as if I was going and very slow.
Wow.
And so it was about a 3.5 week process, but then being home and then again, learning how to walk and talk again. No one ever told me, even you would think occupational therapy, no one told me that these were the hurdles I would actually have to overcome in that process of healing. But I'm fortunate, Brad. I have connected with so many adults, children around the world that have the condition. And I always preface that this was my journey. I hope there's something that you can take from it because it's so gut wrenching. It's so just exhausting that you're looking for answers. And I actually, even though it sounded like this long drawn out process, there are others who have to have routine checkups. And I have not had to go back to my neurosurgeon since the last time I saw him. And that was maybe a week or so after my second surgery. And he says, you just come back if you need me. And I have not seen those doors, Brad, since 2017. You know what I mean? So it could be worse. It could be worse. And I feel like thankful for individuals like yourself and the platforms to actually share a voice because there's so much that we all have in common. Yeah, you may not have had double brain surgery, but we can speak to kicking through tough times. We can speak through having to stay and live in our authentic selves, and that could be different from the next. So it really is, it's been a journey, but I wouldn't change anything about it.
It's hard to see that though when you're in the situation. I think it's very hard to pull the gift out of that situation, but if you're able to step outside and look in, it's there, and you have to be able to do that. You have to learn how to do that because there are going to be other situations you encounter in your life. Again, maybe not double brain surgery, but there are going to be hard times that you're going to go through. And it's going to seem like the end of the world or it's going to seem really tough. And it is at the time, but to be able to take a step back and look in and pull the gift, pull the lesson in order to move forward, that's the key.
Yeah. And I was given life. We go through the motions like they're just automatic. We're going to have this whole day. We're going to make it through the whole day. No, we don't know that. We don't know that. So that's where the being where my feet are. I tell myself every single day, Ashley, girl, wheel it back in. Wheel it in. Okay? Because you just get excited and you're doing all these things. But I know what it was like to feel as if I was losing my life. And I had to be strong for my family. I couldn't give because they were all on edge. They were all not knowing what was happening. And I said, you know what? We know who the creator of life is. So we're sitting here and all you're hearing is a machine ding every 3 seconds. We will hear that until it is time for me to go home. So no, we don't need a different answer from what we had a few minutes ago. They don't know. We had to just deal with the tickings of the machine to say, we're going to monitor and we're going to patch you up back there. And when we start to see that you have less and less, then you can go home. Well, you're hopeful that you're having a lot. And the next thing, it goes down and it's minimal. And then it picks back up like a flood. And then they're going, well, we're just going to kind of see what your body does. And so I just feel it's like when you're in a position where it feels like life is being squeezed out to the opportunity for you to get it back, it's a game changer.
Take advantage of every moment, every opportunity that you have, because each of those moments and opportunities are a gift.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Now, obviously, empowerment is at the core of Your Bold is Beautiful. And although you strive to empower individuals, both men and women, the focus is primarily helping to empower women. Mm-hmm. I had the pleasure and honor last year of being a speaker at the 4th annual, and it was an absolute pleasure and honor to be there in that environment, in that energy, but also the fact that it was the first year that you decided to involve men in the conference. And I had the gift of taking part in that men's panel, which was an incredible experience. And by the way, that was my first ever experience of speaking in person in front of an audience. I didn't tell you that.
And you killed it. Oh my goodness. I was so excited. You would have never known.
So I'm grateful and so blessed for the opportunity. I'm curious as to, though, why did you decide that this past year would be the year to involve men? What inspired that, and how was it received overall, in your opinion, as the organizer?
Great question. And it actually originated from my husband. And I have to give him his cookies, his kudos, his coffee, whatever he wants, because planning it every year and seeing how the conference has taken off so much, he was noticing that these are conversations, and I would have to totally agree, which is why I was like, heck yeah, let's do this, right? Is that we were talking about things that men want to get down to the nitty gritty too. These are the same things that men are talking about. And so why not, in this safe and inclusive environment, why not give it a shot? And so it was just that. It was literally, I tell you, such a phenomenal group of men. And I think because it always takes me about a month or two or plus to digest how the conference goes every year. And one of the things that I took away was the joy in seeing you all's joy when you figured out how much you had in common. It was insane. I was like, wait, I know we talked as like a panel like before. You guys had your questions and I kind of eavesdropped on the pre-planning, and I'm like, oh, but I never heard, and I think you all never knew.
That's right.
Sitting in a room that you all would agree that you were raised by single mothers who had to do what they had to do. And when you're talking about a mother raising her son, but then when it's, say, a man raising his son, there are certain things that women and men can't do, or they may do better. Let me just say that. I feel like in that moment, it was, oh, you were too? Oh, you were too? Oh, you were too? And I was like, now this is what it's about, right? Because you all felt empowered to then probably tap into another side that was a little deeper to actually say what your childhood looked like, or the struggles that you had to overcome, or how you've been able to apply your upbringing to what you do now and what you're most passionate about. I was jumping out of my high heels. I actually took them off a couple times during the conference, but I tell you, I was like, they are killing it. And then it just didn't seem like enough time, because I was like, we could actually go for so much more time, but we had been there already all day. But you guys just were so amazing and so bold and so transparent that I know I hear the testimonies. I don't know, when people walk away, I don't know, we try to tell the story right on social media, but it really takes a conversation with one to say, did that do that for you too? That is just, it was just phenomenal. So that's why we had it, is because we knew that men urge for the same. And so it's okay to talk about how emotions play a role in a lot. Men are raised to not cry. Men are raised to always be so strong, and you don't need to do this. No, can we talk about that? Can we talk about the fact that men have feelings too? And I know that in my relationship, I've been with Sean since I was a freshman in high school, and we have evolved and we've grown over time. But what I hold close is the fact where I check on him emotionally to say, I want you to tell me, I want you to know that you got a friend in me, like Toy Story, that the movie, okay? Apply it. You got a friend in me. And if you're not friends first, which that could be a whole nother podcast, but if you're not friends first, then you don't feel like you have that safe space in your spouse or your significant other to say, I'm hitting my peak. So I either need to do this or look at things different or whatever. But that's why we did it. And I really believe that's going to be a component to the conference that we have on a continuous basis.
I love it. Well, I think it was incredibly bold to do that, because a women's empowerment conference, you don't hear of anyone putting a men's panel up. And you're right. When I was sitting up there and listening to each of the gentlemen's stories as they introduced themselves, and we got into that whole family dynamic, and I'm like, it was exactly what you said. Holy shit, you too. Like, you too. Wow. It's just incredible. And what are the chances of that all of us on the panel
I'm telling
were raised by a single mother? Like, it's crazy.
I'm telling you, I was in the back trying to keep Ashley together, because I was just like, wow, you're speaking commonality. You're speaking each other's pain. You're speaking to seasons that you could say, hey, you know what? Me too. Me too. And it's just been a blessing to see that be as fruitful, and which is why I'm like, hey, we'll keep it going.
I love it. And Sean, your husband did an amazing job of moderating the panel. And it was truly an incredible day. I mean, and we got the honor of finishing off the whole day, like finishing off the conference. It was so powerful to end the day that way. So again, thank you so much for that opportunity.
Yes, you're welcome. And we were totally blessed by your presence. So
thank you. Empowerment is not just an individual journey. It's also about building a collective force. So how do you foster a sense of community and collaboration among the women that you bring into your space?
That's a great question, Brad. And I appreciate you asking, because it is something that I really try to build upon in everything that I do. As a whole, I would say women have not had the best experiences when it comes to the sisterhood, right? You keep your tight circle, but then something happens. And then as you're moving forward, the next sister who comes along is paying the price of the sister who hurt you. So when I talk about collaboration over competition, it is huge, because it is ingrained in who I am, what my platform represents, what I choose to be a part of, what I like to be attached to, because there's often times where I'm asked to speak or different things. And if it doesn't align, it doesn't align. If I see it's more of something that is said versus something that's done, I have to do a double take. And I have to say, hey, is that really something that you want to attach Ashley Burney to? Because Ashley Burney works really hard to make sure that who you see is who you get. You really is. Brad, who you see is who you get. I work really hard in living the consistent movement. I call it a movement because it's a daily work. So when we're hosting different events, or I have a client come on board or whatnot, whatever the case is, it is important to me that they understand that you are connecting to greatness. and you are connecting to someone who's consistent in what she says is what she does. And so for me, when I think of collaboration over competition, it is through the daily work, the daily effort. And so it is being very transparent and very real. And that could be through the activities that we do, say, at our seminars or at our conferences. And one of the things I always say off top is, if once we have opened the conference and someone has not come up to you, or you have not felt that genuine feeling of, girl, you look good in that suit. Let me tell you, what do you do for a living? How can I support you? Or you look handsome. Brad, what do you do? You have a podcast? Amazing. Let's collaborate. Let me know what you need, or let's just talk about this journey of empowerment and see what we can do together. That's what I need to see. And if I don't see it, then I'll say, you have permission. I will give you your money back. I will make sure that we connect on a one-on-one basis, because I want to know that you feel what we strive to provide. And if you don't, there's a problem. And I was tired, Brad, of going to these conferences and these summits and walking in, and again, who you see is what you get. So I'll go up and make friends. I'll go up and start conversations. But when it's very dry and it just seems like the next, I got tired of that feeling. And so I said, well, we're going to have to do something about it, because what do when you're tired of something? You do something different. That's what we strive for our platform to do, is to breed the collaboration over competition. And it's through our activities, through our work, through the consistency where one is growing and they can see the growth in themselves.
You do exactly that. There is no competition. It is a sisterhood. Being in that energy, I saw it, I felt it, I experienced it. There is none of that there. And that's what it's about. We're all here to support one another and lift each other up. And if, like you said, if I can help you in any way, of course I'm going to do it. 100%. That's part of what we're here to do.
We were just talking on that before we even got started recording, but that's where it takes of just when you're like-minded, you're speaking the same vibe, you're connecting in a way where the excitement just to connect and just to talk, hey, what you got going? It's reciprocated. So I love that about us. But
now, mentorship is a powerful tool for empowerment as well. So how do you encourage mentorship relationships among women, and what impact have you seen as a result?
Absolutely. So I'll speak from a personal perspective and then also through our work. So personally, I love to have mentors in my life that can speak to the vulnerability side of it when it is asking for help, or when it's sitting and listening. Sometimes that's the issue. We don't listen to understand. We listen to have a reaction or a response. Sometimes you just have to shut your mouth. Sometimes you just have to be quiet and listen and take in to grow, right? And so for me, having the few mentors that I do and keeping my circle very enriched and very small, I also believe in being a mentor. So there are many who've reached out and said, hey, Ashley, can I take you to lunch? Can we go to coffee? I just need to know if I'm on the right page, knowing if I'm going steady and if I'm doing this thing right. And oftentimes it's breeding those who want to be in the empowering space. And so I shoot it to them straight. This is what you can get. This is what you see. Some may feel as if they are ready, but then when you connect, you see they're not. And then it can kind of turn into you're feeling drained. So my mentees who I mentor, I really believe that it is my duty to give back. And it's my duty to, if the conversations are needed, that I'm there to give them. But another layer to what we offer is our youth empowerment program. So we want to hit it when it's young. We want to address and tackle those hurdles when they're young, so that as they're growing, they feel empowered to be themselves. And so we've actually mentored through the Heart to Heart Youth Empowerment Program. We've mentored 3,700 students to date. We go into the at-risk schools, the schools where many are running from, and saying, oh no, give me those kids. I want to talk to those kids. And I have been so blessed to work with students who are now in high school, who have gone on to college and say, hey, Ms. Burney, I just have a quick question. And I'm like, it's not a quick question, but what's up? We'll sit and we'll chop it up because I want them to know that I wish that there was that individual for the young Ashley. I grew up in a single parent home. At the time, my father had a drug and alcohol addiction. He was in and out of my life until I was about 18 years old. But I saw things that I didn't want to see. I saw individuals fighting through addiction, not knowing what self-love is, to then when Ashley stayed in the strongest space mentally that I could, I was teaching myself that this is healthy, that's not healthy. Yes, no, maybe so. These are all things that I had to learn and navigate. So I'm blessed to say that my father has been clean for over 20 years. And he is very present. I love him to life. But I saw my mom experience things as a woman that when you can feel at times that you're not enough or that you can't love someone enough. But can we flip the someone to myself, to I? We oftentimes go through and we're doing these things and we're losing ourselves in the process. And so for me, I always think of the younger Ashley. And I'm like, I actually had a few educators come along in my childhood that scooped me right up from the distress to say, hey, you know what? Things seem off today. Is everything okay, Ashley? And for me to be able to talk to who now I have a very close relationship with those individuals to date, and they're highly involved in my life. And then to see me have kids and to love all my kids, and it's very important. So mentorship is a part of who I am because I always think of the little Ashley, the little girl who had no clue what life was going to throw at her. But it's those things that I consider to be in my foundation that I've always held close. So to mentor and to be mentored, I highly encourage folks that are watching that have thought about it, but many often don't know where to start with that. Because as an adult, you think about, I need a mentor, but you look to areas of growth that one may possess to actually say, I like that about them. I like how they haven't given up. I like how resilient they are in tough times. When things are going good, when things are going bad, there's always a lesson in everything. And so that's how you're able to pull those traits out of those individuals to say, hey, put me on your calendar. Hope I'm not bothering you, but put me on your calendar. So I've just been very fortunate to have amazing mentors, but then also be a mentor to those who I know it can be impactful to.
It's important to give back in that way. If you have a skill set, and we all do, we all have a gift, a skill set that we can use to help others who need the help. So why wouldn't you? It's your duty to do
Absolutely.
that.
But Brad, I think to speak to that is that's why I love when I say your bold is beautiful, and it's really a lifestyle. It's not just it's my lifestyle as well. I choose to believe that even times of uncertainty or where you may feel weak or you went through an experience and you try hard for it to not define you, when you're able to look at or pinpoint layers of your bold, that's actually who you are. And it doesn't have to be, it appeared as though it almost took you out, but what did you learn in it? That's how you're able to define your bold. So I'm really looking forward to your upcoming conference too, because OMG, I am so ready to be surrounded by a room that just feels that wants to grow and wants to know how they can redefine their bold. Your bold, it looks like a heartbeat, the machine, when they're taking your heart rate and it goes up, it goes down. It's never this. And for everybody to be okay with things going like this, again, being where your feet are, I'm telling you, it helps.
Your bold is beautiful. I love it. So
Thank
amazing.
you.
How has your journey, because obviously with the nonprofits, you're doing a lot of philanthropic work. So how has your journey in philanthropy influenced your personal growth and perspectives on societal challenges? And what transformations have you experienced as a result of that?
Yes. And I love the nonprofit work is really ingrained in who Ashley is. I mean, it's actually been my entire career. And it hit a point it was a redefining point for me during the pandemic, because I was actually laid off during the pandemic. I was one of those nuggets that was laid off. And then you had to ask yourself, what am I going to do? So what I did was I actually looked at what I possessed and who I was. What do I bring to the table? And I know that through philanthropic work and energy, a lot of magic happens. And so I said, I'm actually going to start this entrepreneurial journey full time, and I'm going to consult. So for what I was able to do for one company, I was like, doors close. And you have to thank God for the doors that close, because sometimes when we want to hold that handle open, we're really not walking in our magic. No. We have to go through, and we actually have to cross over into those next seasons for us to really see and be empowered by our strength to say, oh, you know what, even through the pandemic, I was able to do X, Y, Z. I was actually able to birth Ashley Burney Consulting. And so what I like about Ashley Burney Consulting is it has a philanthropic arm to it, to where for example, when I work with different corporations and they're so black and white, this is what we're going to do. We're going to cross this T. We're going to dot this I. This is what we're going to do. I like to be in the gray. And let me tell you why. That's where you'll have the growth. And you'll actually be able to speak to who you serve, your employees, your audience. And then I have them stretch. Their thinking then becomes stretched, because it's, oh, you know what? There is something special in giving back. There is something special when we can have a group of our employees go out to, say, Ashley, the most at-risk schools that you work in. And then you actually see the mini you. You see the kid that you desired, that you're like, oh, that was me. I was raised in a single parent home, or times were tough at home where I counted on the meals that are served at school as my meals, the different things that you have to overcome. So I've been able to really have a philanthropic drive, and I have seen much success in incorporating that into what needs to be ingrained and what needs to be the foundation, so that you have the empathetic side. And so when you give back and you are one that is one of service, then you feel good. Even going through, it's usually oftentimes when you're volunteering and you're like, oh, I didn't know. I didn't have any clue, or I thought, but I really didn't know. I had no idea. So having the philanthropic arm and knowing that it is of much of importance to give back and to be of service, because I think that's the bloodline. It keeps the humanity in things. People go through so much, being laid off to all the things. And people would have thought when I was laid off that it could have been the end to things. No, it was actually the birth of something I actually needed. I actually looked at my supervisor, Brad, no joke. Okay. When I felt like when you see the papers and they're flipped over on the table and they haven't flipped them over and pointed yet. And I had no idea what was coming, no idea whatsoever. But then when it happened, I said, where do I sign? No jokes. Where do I sign? And I was even asked, I'm actually quite surprised how you took it. You know what? When I left, I went outside the building. The sun was shining. And this is after my surgeries. Anything that came after my surgery is pretty dangerous. Let me tell you why. Because what is meant for some for it to take you out, it's life. I felt the sun beaming on my face. I was walking in downtown Las Vegas, and I said, you know what? I said, things are good. So where do you go from here, Ashley? You actually tap into now the Ashley that you've been giving everybody else. Now it's time to elevate. It's time to stretch. It's time to say, oh, I can do that. And now I can do it on Ashley's terms and with whomever. Oh, it's time to change lives. It is time. So philanthropy and philanthropic work, it breeds an energy that I wish we all held close, which to me, I tie that hand in hand with humanity. I think that when you are of service, you are actually getting a glimpse of things that you should feel, that you should process, which makes us all better people.
I think it's part of all of our journeys. It's part of why we're all here, is to be in and of service to one another. That's
Absolutely.
It. A lot of people would have gone into that meeting and they would have been pissed off, or they would have been screaming or fighting it. But really, when you think about it, what could you do? Nothing you said in that room was going to change the way it went anyways. So
exactly.
Why put yourself through that stress and the anxiety and all? It's not worth it.
It isn't. And I believe in being one of good character. To this day, again, I said, who you see is who you get. I will be in the same room with those individuals and carry on as if I was given life and to do something with it. So every day I just aim to be better, to be a better human, to do something that maybe I didn't even do the day before, just to make an impact. So
what do you think your unique skill set or superpower is that's helped you become successful?
I love hearing the word superpower. I really do. It makes me feel like I need to get like a cape or like somewhere I can just fly. I think I should get one and bedazzle it. I think I should totally do that. So if you see me get it, Brad, just know it was because I was inspired on the podcast. But, I think for me, my superpower is resilience. I have bounced back from some of the most toughest things. And it brings tears to my eyes when I think about it, because if I would have given up, what it could have done to my situation, my children, anyone that could be impacted or affected by Ashley energy. I just think to myself that there's been those things and those times where when I didn't know what the outcome was going to be, I was able to bounce back with fierce determination. And it just inside, I'm like, let's go. Every day I think, man, if it would have went like this, or it would have went like this, or it could have been in a split second choice of, I remember laying in bed sometimes just literally having to take the deepest of breaths and going, I know it's scary. Talking to myself, I know it's scary, Ashley. I know it is. But what are you to do? You just got to be right here. You got to go through it so you can grow through it. People think that they just go through stuff, and they have this notion that they're just going through life. No, you have to look at this thing and grab it by whatever you want to grab it by. We're going to keep this appropriate. But you better grab it and say, to hell with it. I am here for every single thing that has my name on it. I am coming for you. You are now pouring back in this fierce, determined, brave, courageous, strong. You got to talk to yourself. Oftentimes people are referring to other conversations, looking for that ounce of life. You have to tell yourself, I am stronger than I think. If I can get through that, I can for sure get through this. It really is about the outlook and how you look at things. You know what I mean? So I would say resilience. And I'm very proud of that word. And when I think of it, I think of me, because I know that I've had no choice, Brad. I've had no choice. When I look into the eyes of my husband and my children and my family, and they're thinking, well, I'm going to kind of go off mom's vibes. The vibes that you're going to get are, I'll get through this. I'll come back, and I'll come back 1,000 times stronger. So resilience.
Love it. How do you define success? What does that word mean to you?
When I think about success, many want to just portray the beautiful side, the outcome. But every single thing that one could go through is what is defining their success. When you look at success, and oftentimes in life, right, we're navigating our journeys and we're tapping into new capacities, new spaces, a new part of our career. We're growing. We want to excel. We want to keep climbing. When you think about the different things that you could hear along your journey, no, it could literally be the pivotal moment for one if they look at it the wrong way. So for example, how I've chosen to look at no is next opportunity. Next opportunity meaning the right season will come along, the right resources, the right support group, the consistencies. And by the time you reach that point, when you actually look back, you'll realize you weren't ready. So for me, success is literally taking the nuggets that are within and building upon every single day. Now, I do stretch myself, Brad, because I tell myself in my daily interactions and my moves, if I'm not doing something to better Ashley, and when I say Ashley, my platform, my organizations, my relationships, every single day, then that day hasn't bred what I wanted it to.
Yeah.
So every day using that as an opportunity to say, hey, you know what? Yesterday I didn't get to that. That's called having grace with yourself. So you say, you know what? You have tomorrow, Ashley. You have tomorrow. And so looking at it like sometimes you wish that there's more than 24 hours in a day, but it's 24 for a reason. It really is. You feel like you maybe have worked a 48-hour or 72-hour day, but there really is 24 hours in a day for a reason.
Yeah.
And sometimes it is having those healthy boundaries and to know that there's only one me, and I have to have the patience for myself to know that it's trial and error. People who think if it looks like somebody has it all together, let me be the first person to tell you that they don't. It is a journey. So remembering those things. But yeah,
What does the word empowerment mean to you?
It means growth. And when I think about empowering, I feel like it's the shifting of a mindset. And so you could meet individuals who are in many different stages of life. One who feels hopeless, helpless, sad, depressed, angry, stuck. I hear the word stuck a lot. I feel stuck. But when I think of empowerment, I think of the opportunity to grow in areas that we want to improve. And the areas, kind of the buckets that for me, it's friendship, family, my platform. How am I growing it? Am I really standing behind what I say I do? And if I don't, I'm also open to hear that, Ashley, no, you're not. I've been blessed to not hear that, because I really do. I feel that I really pour into cups that doesn't always have to be half, depending on the size of the cup. You know what I mean? I mean, you can have this jug, or you can have this wine glass, or you can have this shot glass. What is half? You know what I mean?
I love it.
So just pouring, seeing it as you are pouring in and you're not being depleted. How does one define half? What defines half? I really love asking that question. Brad, your cup is half full. What kind of cup do you have? Because half may mean it looks like there's a swig in mine compared to you. You know what I mean? So it's stretching, which is the growth opportunity to say that's how empowerment feels as well. Yeah. It's how are you feeling? You know what I mean? So I would say, to sum it up, if I were to choose just one word out of many, I would say growth. Empowerment is growth. That is empowerment to me.
Beautiful. Okay, we're going to jump into a little rapid fire section. So the next grouping of questions just be 2, 3, 4 word answer type thing. Okay. What is one of your favorite quotes? There's only one you. And that is my quote. And the reason why I say my quote is because in teaching, it's the practice, is there's only one you. There's only one you that was born with your fingerprint. So why not go out and do what you do and be bold in it? Love it. What is one thing you want but cannot buy with money? Peace. If you could teach the world one thing, what would it be? If I can teach the world one thing, that acceptance looks different from person to person. How would you describe yourself in one word? Strong. What is one thing you love about yourself that is not related to your physical appearance? Let's see. One thing I love about myself is how courageous I am. And that concludes our rapid fire section. Now back to our regularly scheduled program. Ashley, if you could step into my shoes, what question would you have asked yourself that I didn't ask you? Brad, I mentioned this before we started, and it's a great question. I told you that literally I get questions all the time. Your questions were very thought-provoking, and it made me think. It made me also get excited about maybe something I haven't thought about in a while, because when you empower, you do so much giving of yourself. But I think you actually asked the questions that I would have asked one to really have the courageous conversation. So I think you hit it on the head. Well, thank you. That means a lot to me. I receive that and I appreciate that. What is your why? My why is being the best version of myself. My why, my children, my family, my husband. And if I could break that down for a quick second, when I think of my children, I had high-risk pregnancies with both of them. So to see the human beings that I have had the gift of raising in such a crazy world, they are my why. I go hard for them so that they can see that there are good people in the world. There are people who give a new definition to grind. You got to grind. We're not going to come with no excuses. You got to grind. You got to be your best. And that being your best, sometimes you may feel like you're falling, but it is asking for the help, and it is leaning to each other and talking about the shared experiences between each other. But yeah, I have my why. It's very tight knit, but I feel like it's my kids and who I am and who I strive to be on a daily basis. If you had the opportunity to sit down and have a 1-hour conversation with one woman, any woman in the world, who would it be and why? I literally, if I can get on the edge of my seat right now, I would. When I saw this question, I was like, yes. So, and I am praying one day that I can have her in the presence of YBIB and to experience one of our offerings within Heart to Heart, but that would be Michelle Obama. I have had the opportunity to meet her several times, and one of those times was actually when they were out campaigning here in Vegas, and it was after my surgery. And I shared with her that one thing that I loved about her
was her willingness and her courage to fight for what she knows that we need. And I told her it was because of a few of the healthcare components that for it to be able to directly relate to an experience, a life-changing experience that I had, and the encouraging words that she whispered in my ear. And it was to the point, Brad, where no one was able to have any kind of conversation with her because this was a very tight line, right? And it was like they had to keep going. And I was like, I have to just have a second to just tell her what she did for me. And she stopped and she took a moment to speak with me, and then she kept on. But I would say Michelle Obama, there are just different things that I know, one being a first lady and just not having personally had that experience. But when you think about the strength that one who lives in those shoes has to endure every single day, but then also the life after, to be able to share how she has inspired me, I would love that opportunity. So who's to say that this podcast won't reach her ears? But we're saying, Michelle Obama, I am calling you to have that conversation and that tea, to just sit down and just talk queen stuff.
She'll be at YBIB. We've just spoken it out into the universe.
Yes, she will. It is done. I love it.
If you could go back and give your younger self one piece of advice, what would that piece of advice be?
That you're stronger than you think, because I had no idea what my adulthood would bring me and the experiences that I would have. So speaking to little Ashley, I would say, little mama, you're stronger than you think.
If you were to deliver your last 30-second speech to the world, your tribe, your people, your corner of the world, what would that last 30 seconds sound like? What words of wisdom would you impart?
You are your bold. There is no one that brings to the table what you do with your fingerprint. So go out into the world and leave that baby everywhere you can. Put a fingerprint on every single thing that you do, so that when you look back, you'll be proud of who you are, what you've brought into the world, and the light that you have left.
Thank you so much for taking and making the time to be here with me today, for sharing a little bit about your story, your journey, and of course, the beautiful light you put out into the world through all the work you're doing. You are a true inspiration. I'm grateful to be connected to you, and to be able to call you a friend and to know you. Thank you.
Likewise, Brad. I wasn't missing it for anything, and anything you need, you have my word that I'm here for you as well. So thank you so much for the opportunity.
Right back at you. Exactly. I feel the same way. Thank you so much. Once again, my name is Brad Walsh, host of your Empowerography podcast. Today, my guest has been Ashley Burney. She is a community relations professional, a public speaker, a host, a nonprofit executive, the founder and president of To Heart LLC and Ashley Burney Consulting, the visionary behind Your Bold is Beautiful, and last but certainly not least, a mom. Ashley, thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure. Have a beautiful rest of your day.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Brad.
Thank you very much for listening to this podcast. If you haven't yet, please be sure to subscribe, rate, review, and share with all your friends. You can find me at viseuphoria.ca and follow me on Instagram at Empowerography Podcast and on Facebook at Empowerography. Please join me next time for another inspirational story from yet another amazing woman.